Okay. It is 10:03, and I'm now calling the Operations Committee meeting to order. Council, would you please call the roll?
Director Howard,
Here.
Director Duplessis, Director Pacho,
Yeah.
Director Scholas, Director Kennedy.
And Mr. Director Sloss is in attendance, although not a member of the committee. So we do not have a quorum, but we will proceed with presentation of items, of which we have three. The first one will be the People Plan update, given by Executive Director Ghassan Corbin and Jamie Parker, who's the Director of Planning and Strategy. Jamie?
All right. Well, good morning. I'll kick it off, and Jamie will help me throughout the presentation. So we're very excited to obviously share where we are today with the People Plan. As all three of you know, you were here when this concept and this initiative started. We did a preliminary study back in 2019 to kind of start exploring what this utility can do in terms of HR and just improving the environment for our employees. And we've had some interruptions, and it's taking a little while, but we have hit a major milestone, and that's where we're going to update you on today. So basically, we're going to talk about an overview of the People Plan, the development of the plan. That's Jamie will do that. Then I'll talk about the findings, the implementation process, and then I'll give it back to Jamie for the approval process and the proposed transition process. So a quick overview, just for everybody's sake. People Plan is a brand we gave collectively. I think the board was very involved with the actual naming of that. It's an initiative, it's a process with the end result is to evaluate or compare where we are today, meaning we're being under the civil service structure versus an alternative where we can go. So that's the process of providing us with that alternative. It's a process that has been intentionally from the very beginning involving our own employees. Without their input, without their feedback, without their buy-in, this plan will not work, will not even be tempted to be changed or anything like that. So we've committed that to our employees. We're showing them that their voices matter, and this is being done for them. At the end of the day, this probably by far would be one of the biggest legacy projects that we would have touched in terms of long-term impact and improvement for the utility. So at the end of the day, we will have a roadmap for the board to help us chart and define, and then we'll talk about the needed steps to make that happen after a very critical step, which is a survey assessing the interests of the employees after 5 town hall meetings that we're going to go through, and Jamie would elaborate on that a bit more.
Okay, so this is just an overview of how we developed the plan and got to the point where we are today. So the first big step was to evaluate our current policies and practices, and it included taking a look at the work that we handle ourselves via Human Resources, as well as the city's Civil Service Department and Civil Service Commission. We also conducted several focus group sessions and an online survey, and we met regularly with a steering committee that included a cross-section of employees. And so during this phase, we found that employees continued to bring up and talk about the same workforce issues and challenges, and so that really helped us identify some key specific focus areas of the People Plan and the challenges that we're continuing to see there. So those areas ended up being compensation and benefits, employee protections, career pathways and professional development, recruitment, and retention. The next step in developing the plan was to research other utilities and learn how they manage workforce challenges in these same areas. So with the help of a consulting team, we evaluated the policies and practices used by other utilities to determine whether we could adapt some of those to improve our own operations and processes. Next, we went back to employees and we held a second round of focus group sessions. So this second round of work occurred in October of 2024. And so this time when we were talking with employees, we were focused on finding potential changes and improvements that they would support to address our workforce challenges. So we brought up the lessons we learned from other places, asked for feedback on that. We asked employees if they had their own ideas to address current problems. And in this phase of the project that we held 8 focus group sessions at our various locations with more than 70 employee participants. And now I'll let Ghassan discuss the findings of all of that work.
Thank you, Jamie. And obviously, it should be very clear to everyone here that we've been very systematic in our approach. And again, you know, I can't emphasize enough that the people and our employees have to be part of this initiative. That's why we've spent so much time communicating and having a dialogue with as many of them that they wanted to participate. We can force participation, but we're very encouraged at the level of participation. That sends us a message that people are interested in exploring, which is what I've asked them to do. Just keep an open mind. Just let's explore what this may look like. You can always say, no, thank you, right? And the findings in general really cemented our belief that people, what really typically people want in terms of a work environment. And obviously the top of the list is the benefits, what people receive in general, but in our case, you know, there are known benefits that people love and want to protect. And we knew that from the get-go, and to be honest with you, we could arguably say that we shouldn't even be discussing benefits as part of this people plan, because they're really very set apart and they're really not related. But nonetheless, if it weighs heavy on our employees, we're talking about it. And we're saying that we are 100% unequivocally committed to not touching the benefits. They are not part of the people plan. They're not part of the changes that we may be pursuing and ultimately approving. The benefits stay as they are. The executive leadership and the board control that. That could change in the future. I can't guarantee what future leadership do or don't do, but today our commitment to you is that the benefits stay. Again, I can't emphasize that enough. Pension is obviously a top priority for our employees. It's a very good pension program, very solid. We continue to improve on it financially, and arguably it's part of the attraction to working for the Sewage and Water Board. So we want to make sure that remains protected and maintained. So as part of our town hall meetings, obviously meeting the employees, we're going to make sure that they understand that in order to assure them to be more open to the other changes that we're proposing. They also want protection. I mean, when you work for a government agency, there's inherent protection. Sometimes it's associated with civil service. Sometimes it's associated with other environment. But in this case, we've made it clear that even coming out of civil service, we would still be able to provide a structured process to protect them. Even private sectors, with companies that are our size, 1,000 people or more, you have processes, HR, and, it's not a ma and pa shop where people can be hired and fired at will. This will be very structured, and people will be protected in the best way we can. We don't know what it's going to look like. Obviously, the board will have a significant role in terms of defining what that body would look like in terms of protecting and listening to grievances in the future. If I share a story with you, I may have shared it with you. About 18 years ago or so, the state of Wisconsin the governor introduced the right to work law that took away rights of government agencies from negotiating under unionized labor. And obviously the people who were protected under union were very concerned, but the second group that were more concerned were the middle manager, or what's the word I'm looking for here? Managers who governed these employees, because they lost the structured way of governing people, right? And then, so we had to create something new for them to able to manage folks. So point here is that we need a structured process for employees to know that they are protected, but also for our managers for consistency in how we manage our folks. Obviously, top on the list of our employees is the compensation. And obviously, we currently don't have the flexibility to manage that. We are restricted by a very structured pay scale that we're limited to that, and that's the only way we can compensate our folks. So obviously the biggest issue here today is that the flexibility versus lack of flexibility. And we want to go from a very restrictive structured process to something that allows us to be more flexible, and that will allow us to consider many of the things that on this slide is pursuing a compensation study, for example, so we know what people deserve. It's based on certain positions and skill sets. The cost of living adjustment that could be considered. Currently, we are not even allowed to talk about that. The longevity raises, that could be something we can consider and balance with other things. We're not committing to any of these. We're not offering them today, but that today we know we can't. Tomorrow, if we change, we know that it's a possibility, and it's going to be all driven by budget, by balancing what the package would look like to an employee in terms of benefits, compensation, and such. So these are the things that are, to me, they're promising in terms of, again, what the world would look like for an employee if we're not restricted. There are incentive pays that you can pay employees based on improving their certification. For example, you could be a mechanic, and in that world, there's certification that are gradual, and then those can allow you to gain more compensation and higher raises just based on higher skill set and knowledge that you can gain.
What about performance? Qualifications and certifications are one thing, performance is a different basis.
We will be able to create our own performance measures to allow our employees to make more money based on how well they perform. I mean, not everybody has the ability to be certified. I mean, there are a lot of positions that don't have specific outside certification, but if they can prove more productive based on certain criteria that we will be able to create, I mean, that's an awesome incentive for folks to do better for the utility. And obviously there are other interests and other areas like rollovers and annual leave. That's something that employees are very much interested in. And again, today we can do it. It's very black and white. It's in writing. It's civil service driven. It's out there in terms of we can talk about it in entire package, more balanced approach that we can sit and negotiate that. Career pathways and development. Obviously, many of our employees talked about how it's very difficult to navigate through the promotional opportunities, transferring, and such. It's very, very restrictive. It doesn't really give us the flexibility to recognize somebody with the potential and may not fulfill every bit of civil service requirements, and we both miss out. If I see some potential, I want to grow that person and invest in them, we should be able to do that. Today, we can't. So that's certainly a great opportunity in terms of letting people, allowing them to grow, and then give managers more, empowering them to do the assessment and evaluation and own that decision and allow people to be promoted.
And the relationship with civil service, that's really improved, or has it improved?
We certainly have a very good relationship. I mean, we've worked hard. They're reciprocated. They're responsive. And this is nothing to do with, this is not a knockdown on civil service. We're just arguing that why would we want to go through another agency to justify certain things and decisions, whether it's adding positions, promoting somebody that may not fit exactly, we just want more autonomy for the sake of our employees, right? So nothing wrong with civil service as it is. It's a well-structured entity, but I argue, why do I need to go through them to manage my utility?
Yeah, good.
Recruitment is another area where we struggle in terms of how restricted we are. Again, advertising a position, we help ourselves here and there in terms of putting our positions on other venues like LinkedIn and such. But the predominant advertisement of our positions is governed by and controlled by civil service. And we feel that we sometimes miss out on candidates just because of just the process itself. So why not own our own recruitment process? Again, it will only allow us to gain more talent and more flexibility and empowerment within our managers to attract people that they need.
I assume that would include something like if we have a specific urgent need, we could have bonus for people, signing bonus to use football funds,
That could,
which we can't possibly do now.
yeah, today is not even, you can't even think it,
Yeah.
much less implemented. But that is something we could consider as, again, we'll have that flexibility. And again, there's a budget that will drive most of these decisions. Obviously, the quality of your agency, and there's a lot of things that you can do to improve on that, and again, attract and retain. So retention, obviously, I wouldn't put it squarely on the current situation. We probably could do more in that arena, and we'll talk a little bit about that. There are some things, this effort or this initiative has really shown us that there are things that we can do, whether we stay or not where we are. I mean, there are things that we control in terms of improving HR, how we serve our internal customers. There are a lot of areas where we feel we should and will do more regardless. But we will also show you, again, it might sound repetitive, a lot of areas where we are handcuffed and there's no way we can listen to our employees and their needs without the flexibility that we will seek or we're seeking. So, so just in general, basically, just a quick summary. Obviously, the health and the pension benefits will be maintained. The workforce protection idea will be protected under a new structure. Will be vetted again by the board and some employees just to make sure that we're being thorough and fair and all that. And compensation is definitely top, and then will be one of the top areas where we can show improvement by far. Career path, obviously professional development, and how we recruit and retain would all become a different world for us if we're given the opportunity. So that we're gonna just show you the implementation process, and Jamie will go through that, and then some key steps in the future that hopefully we'll get to exercise.
Okay, so as Ghassan mentioned, there are some things that we could do currently, and so that would be one of the things we would want to focus on that the people plan has revealed, to focus on the improvements that are within our control that we would make. So a big step there would be to build up and strengthen our HR department, to give them the capacity to improve the administration of their functions and streamline internal processes. Implementing new technology, which is in the works, will also help a great deal to improve efficiencies. So that is something that was revealed to us through this, developing the plan, and is something that we're committed to, is strengthening our HR department to better serve employees. And these are, as you can see, really the areas, the workforce issues that we could touch on currently that are within our control. So, increasing HR access across all of our different locations, working to improve communications about promotional opportunities, improving the administration of internal programs like performance reviews and our deferred retirement option program, management training, the programs to boost employee morale, other initiatives that would increase communication between the executive leadership team and employees, and the survey that would let us hear from employees on a more periodic basis, a regular basis. How do you feel about working at the Sewage and Water Board? What could we do to improve? And then lastly, something that's in process is improving the onboarding orientation process for new hires, to connect them to the utility and make them feel like they're part of the team from the first day, and sharing kind of the important role that we play in the community. So these are things that were identified in conversations with employees that they would like to see changes or improvements, and we recognize that these are things that we can do and are committed to doing that. However, as we have heard, there are some areas where we have limited or no flexibility to make changes, and really the way that we would be able to gain that flexibility and independence would be to transition to a new system, a new workforce system that we would develop based on the analysis of the people plan and the feedback that we've received from employees. And this new system, it would be specifically tailored to meet the needs of the utility as well as the workforce. It would give us the flexibility to make changes where we've heard we need to improve, but we're still balancing all of those other important considerations like budget and other capacity issues. So under this new system, what we would be looking at is a stronger and a robust HR department to administer all of our work-related functions. So that would be taking the place of city civil service and having all of our workforce issues handled, managed, administered in-house. And this is just a quick recap of all of the areas where we currently do not have independence or flexibility to make changes. This requires approval from civil service, and so that is, these are areas where we could explore changes with more independence and flexibility. Okay, quickly, the approval process, this is, if these are the steps if we were to move forward with the people plan. It's a multi-step process. The first would be gauging employee support. So we have an idea of how employees feel about these particular issues based on all of the focus groups and outreach we did previously, but we need to have some feedback utility-wide from everyone. So this would be done through a utility-wide, non-binding survey where we would ask a series of yes or no answers, questions to get feedback from employees and gauge their support in moving forward with the people plan. Next would also be, following that, if employees show strong participation in the survey and also support the idea of moving forward, we would bring the results to the board of directors. And the full board would need to approve us moving forward with the people plan and pursuing these other options at an upcoming board meeting. The survey will be, well, I guess let me back up a little bit. There are a series of town hall sessions that are scheduled to take place at all of our different facilities as well as virtually, where employees will have hear this same presentation followed by a question and answer session, so that any other issues or questions they can ask, we will have staff on hand to walk them through the steps and make everyone feel confident and assured that this is how this would roll out. So those kick off starting tomorrow at our Peoples Avenue location. We'll be having one here at our administrative office as well as our Carrollton water plant. So we're hoping that there's strong attendance there, but there'll also be virtual options, and we are really making a concerted effort to get the information out so that employees can participate in the survey and know about it. And then given our, the current laws that place us in civil service, we would need action from the legislature and then voters statewide to approve a constitutional amendment. There is a provision in the Constitution that places us in city civil service currently. And then finally, this is a proposed transition process. If we were to get all of the approvals that we need, we would need a detailed plan to carry out this transition, where we would be taking over everything that City Civil Service is doing and bringing it in-house to be administered by Human Resources. An idea would be to create an advisory committee with stakeholders to help us develop that plan. We could consider making the committee subject to open meetings and public records law to ensure transparency of the process. Of course, consider requiring the transition plan itself to be approved by the board, providing regular progress reports to stakeholders so that we're open in sharing information in terms of meeting milestones and completing action items, and also holding us accountable, showing that we are doing what we said we would. And then finally, kind of any administrative steps that would need to be done that would finalize the transition once we had the authorization to move forward with it from the legislature and voters. So in the town halls, this will be the end of the presentation, and then we'll open up to Q&A for employees.
And now we'll open up the Q&A.
Yes.
I guess it's just a general question. Based on the focus groups or interaction so far with employees, what would be staff's assessment of their response in terms of belief in the process and trust?
Well, I hope that they would see that this time, we've been really focused on getting feedback. So there were 2 focus group sessions already. By sessions, I mean like 2 different times we conducted focus groups, and each time consisted of multiple meetings with different employees. There was the online survey, and then now there's the utility-wide survey that we'll be doing. So I would hope that this increased effort for employee engagement, participation, and feedback shows trust in the process, that we're listening and are trying to really craft something that works for everyone, including the utility and the workforce that we need to carry out our functions. But what I've heard is it's basically the findings. Their employees want improvements in these certain areas that we aren't able to make changes in, while also acknowledging that there are things they do like, the protections and benefits.
Okay, thanks.
Well, it seems like the best of both worlds. We keep the protections that they want, and we have opportunities to have incentive pay and promotions made more rationally and a number of different things. So, looks like good work. Thank you.
Yeah, we're actually very excited, about the town hall meeting, because, we've made it a core effort for us to meet with our employees and hear them out. And if they want improvements, that is clearly stated, it's very universal, they all want the same things. And if the only way we can get them those new things and improved environment is getting us out of this restricted structured civil service environment. It's just, and they'll have to make a decision, live with what we have or take a chance and be better. And we expect some skeptics out there. I mean, we've done everything we can in comparison to previous administrations in terms of reaching out, touching everyone that, made themselves available. Just, I think we've done everything that we could possibly do to prove that we are trustworthy, and we're doing this for them.
Well, anything else? Then, thank you very much, Ms. Parker and Ghassan. A lot of work has gone into this. You're just demonstrating it. All right, a smart meter billing update, and the plan to address delinquencies. And this is going to be presented by Susanna Kirby, the interim chief customer service officer. Ms. Kirby?
Hello again.
Morning.
Oh, good morning. So wanted to take some time this morning to give you an update on some previous conversations we've had centered around specifically smart meter delinquency and our processes, and just provide some updates as to what we're doing successfully right now, what we have implemented, what we know we still need to do, maybe some challenges that we have, but we're actively working through it. So with that, unless you had anything to
No.
add? Okay. We will just get started. So one of the first things that I just wanted to share was an overall comparison to other utilities. So we have a 2022 EPA study, and I just thought it was a good visual to show in relation to where we are. So we're categorized as a very large utility just based on our number of customers. And I circled in red below, if we look at the average number of households is around 21.5% that are running delinquent. You'll see a little bit later on where we are. Now, the caveat I put in this is that some utilities designate delinquent differently. So our delinquent, just as a reminder, is 60 days, $50 greater than 60 days, you're considered delinquent. Other utilities mark 30 days, so there could be some, variance in that. But I still thought it was interesting to see, and also the $14.5 million in delinquent numbers. The next thing I wanted us to look at, because I think it's an important visual and it's something that I think we've known here at the Sewage and Water Board for a while and are actively trying to address, that we'll see on our process, is the number of days it takes us to take action on delinquent customers. So you'll see highlighted down here, we're one of the longest days late at 70 days until we start taking action on delinquent customers. So we knew that we needed to take action to kind of get ahead of it sooner so customers don't get further behind.
That's, sorry. That's policy or capacity?
It was process, yes.
So is that capacity or
It's just an improvement of process that we needed to change, right? A change in process. So previous process was that we would actually wait until the 60 days plus before we took our very first action to inform customers of being past due. That needed to be revisited and changed, which is what we did through this process with smart meters and evaluating take action with delinquent customers.
So just to be clear, is the 70 days on top of the 60 days, or does it include the 60 days?
No, include the 60 days.
Okay. And based on what your interchange was with POCO, am I right in thinking this is what the goal, if we're sticking to process, or is this what we're actually doing?
No, this is what we were doing. Our goal now is to start contacting customers at 30 days.
No, I mean, the 70 days here, was that?
Snapshot of actual.
Of
Or
actual.
process? Oh, the prior, is this the prior process?
Prior process.
Versus what was actually happening?
Versus what we're proposing.
So this is what was
I think it's
happening.
a goal versus what's happening. I don't know what process.
Are we really doing
Get it.
this in 70 days currently? I mean, before AMI comes on?
We weren't taking action with delinquent customers until around day 70.
Yeah, so that's,
Okay,
to me,
all
that's
right.
policy.
So what we took from this is some best practices that several of which we are implementing now. A few we are putting into action, and some are really going to come into play when we get our new billing system. So we're currently with Cogsdale. We do have the RFP that's under internal review right now to go out to bid, and we anticipate implementation within the next 2 years with about 2-year rollout. So one of the things that we wanted to really beef up is assess credit risk, risk of customers that come in that may be delinquent, that we may see from other utilities, even with us, and do we need to evaluate assessing a higher deposit? Things like that we are actioning off of now, not implementing right now. Identify these customers and monitor them throughout, have targeted outreach with them to, again, make sure that we're helping them stay on track. Proactive customer education, different collection strategies based on the segments, basically prioritizing correctly, again, to address customers as quickly as we can so they don't fall further behind. Okay. So the next is I wanted to share some current numbers. So if you'll remember from that first slide, I had the 21.5%. If you just look, and I'll have several things in here that maybe not disclaimers, but that will affect the numbers a little bit. If we just look at the flat amount that we've billed, around 62 million, and our delinquent amount just over 17 million, that equates, just for smart meter bills, again, keep this in mind, a 28% delinquent amount. Now,
Outstanding amount, is outstanding beyond 60 days or outstanding,
that is beyond 60 days.
so it's late?
Yes. So the first thing I did want to notate on this is how we designate our location classes. You'll see in the note at the bottom, we do have multifamily, but outside of multifamily, on those small commercial and even large commercial, several of those are what we might qualify as large multifamily. So the big apartment complexes, and just because of the number of units they have and being large, we designate them as commercial. So I did want to denote that, because right now as practice, we do not issue turnoffs for multifamily apartment complexes. And if they become too much in the arrears, we work with Gray in the CFO office to contact the customers to try to work out plans. If that is not successful, we will go through legal and pursue other options as needed. So that's just some explanation on that. So if we look at our unique delinquent customers, it's about 29,000. Of those, over 10,000 are on promise pay.
What is a unique delinquent customer?
Oh, well, so just one customer. So, one customer may be delinquent for 5 months in a row. So I don't want to say, 1 times 5 with your number. You have 29,000 individual customers
Okay.
that are,
Okay,
yeah, past due.
thank you.
So customers on promise pay 10,000. So that puts us, if we don't take any other qualifications into place, a little over 19,000 that would be pending shutoff, eligible for shutoff. However, we do still have exemptions. Now, this is something we identified several months ago. We knew it was a problem. We took action on it. And it is still a work in progress. We have a group actively working on it. However, some of these accounts, and I apologize, I don't have a number for you today. It's still something we're working on. But some of those 19,000 do fall in the exemption category, which, just to explain what that means, it's a mark on someone's account that they might be in investigation, or they may be with legal, or they may have bankruptcy or life support. There's topics. Mainly they fall under investigation and hearing, and it prevents them from going through the collections process. So that's why it's important, and that's why it's important for us to make sure that we're staying on top of it, removing them as they are not needed anymore, and evaluating the accounts for appropriate notations of this kind.
Could you explain what you described to me, the problem that has come up in this area historically, and what you're doing about it right now?
The exemption specifically?
Yeah, the exemptions. I mean,
Sure. Yeah, so historically, we had a process where customer service, others, if somebody called or there was a thought that the account needed to be reviewed in any way, anyone could place an exemption on. There wasn't a really solid process for who, when, and why we should place an exemption on an account. That has been corrected as of last year, mid last year, where now there are only select people that place accounts in exemption, and it's under only certain circumstances. So it is a process policy change. When we found the error, there were a little over 50,000 exemptions on accounts.
The third of our customers?
Yeah, so we did do, we were really careful about the qualifications we put and conservative on doing a mass removal of those exemptions so that we could kind of clear the slate a little bit. And as I said, there's still more work to be done on that.
So am I not seeing it? How many people are exempt right now?
Well, so it gets a little tricky with our data and how we pull the data from Cogsdale, and I don't like to put numbers up that I can't stand behind. So I am working on the metrics and tracking I can definitely get that to you when I have it and I feel comfortable with the number. So I can't tell you out of the 19,000 exactly how many have exemptions on them.
But can you tell us how many, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Joe.
Help me understand, or us understand. Does the arbitration process factor into these numbers?
It would. So when HGI reaches out to us, if they aren't able to come up with a resolution for the customer that day, for example, they will send us a message and say, please mark this customer to avoid disconnection while we review, and we put a 30-day hold on that account. So the process is that from the day that HGI contacts us, 30 days out, we put it. After the 30 days, it drops out unless HGI contacts us again and says they need more time. So that is a new and better process than what we had, but it would factor into it.
Okay.
So I think, yeah, sure. Director Howard, maybe what you were asking is what the current number overall, and this is not just smart meters, this is every customer, just under 25,000 accounts with exemptions remain. If I take just accounts within the last year for exemptions, it's about 5,500. So what we're looking at is those older ones prior to a year, but again, just being really careful for the customer experience that we have not dropped anything where we need to follow up with those customers for any need.
But clearly, there are more customers who are under the exemption status that don't belong there, and but we want to be careful vetting before we change that status.
Let it expire in the software.
Yes.
The period for shut-offs and turn-ons is what? Is that the year, month?
Yes, so thank you, Director. So I took shut-offs from the, these numbers are from our go live of actual billing smart meters, which was April 29th. So the shut-offs is from 60 days out of April 29th of 2024 through the end of December.
So June 30th.
June?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so on to the good stuff, our process, what we're doing, what we're still kind of working on and honestly perfecting. So as we spoke about earlier, we did understand that we were reaching these customers later than what we should. We need to be contacting them sooner to help them get back on track. So we're still perfecting this first bullet, but sending that first delinquent notice at 30 days. So after 30 days, while you know, we have said 60 days, we're considering you past due. We want to let the customer know, hey, it's been 30 days, you missed a payment, you owe, let's get you going, here's some options. So that's step one. Step two, which would come 20 days after that 30-day letter, is a 10-day letter, right? So that's going to put us at the 60 days if we're tracking on a timeline of, hey, you have 10 days before you're past due and eligible for this is the one that's going to, you know, you're eligible for service disconnection. Within that 10 days, we're going to reach out via phone call, email if it's available, to again try to make contact with that customer to get them to come in.
And we have a way to know that we did contact them?
Yes, everything's logged in the customer record and attachment.
So if we don't contact them, we're not gonna shut it off until we do?
So they make attempts to contact, but if we've sent that 10-day letter,
That does it. So you get through the second notice and, okay.
So this is in Cogsdale?
This is all held in Cogsdale.
So you have the account, and then it says, enters the day that the first letter goes out, and it enters the day that the second letter goes out.
Correct.
Okay.
So the final step, which of course we don't want to get to, but would, if necessary, would be disconnection. You know, some things we want to ensure with timing is that we're not doing erroneous shutoffs. So if that customer's come in with that 10 days, Is customer service trained and equipped to know this customer made a payment, cancel the service order? The answer is yes. You know, help prioritize for the collections team and meter reading, the GSO team, shutoffs. And then, of course, after that is complete, again, in coordination with Meter Shop, GSO office, monitor these smart meter accounts for what we call inactive with consumption. So we want to ensure that customers aren't doing something like a tamper event, turning water back on, and that we're taking immediate action, which now that is not going to be through Cogsdale, that's going to be through monitoring through census analytics.
What about, are customers tampering?
Yeah, so we have had, and Steve, you may know the percent better than me, or direct. I want to say it's minimal. We're at 2%, 3%?
I think it's right around 3%.
Of tamper events. Now, that's not all inactive with consumption. That's different tampering events, but that is included in it. So the options for that on the table, we've discussed perhaps the need for getting more ally meters, which an ally meter, if you'll recall, allows for remote shutoff. So for any perhaps repeat offenders or, egregious offenders, that could be an option down the road. Locking lids, so it actually locks the lid, so they're not able to pop it open.
But are we doing that? If somebody's tampered with the meter, are we putting the locking lid on right away?
In most cases, I believe, yes.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
New process for,
Huh?
that's right. Yes, it's a new process.
Okay. Okay.
And then, of course, with that, also placing the tamper fees on the customer accounts that they would be required to pay before getting service turned back on.
And what is the fee?
So for smart meters, the base fee for a tamper event is $350. And then there is wording, based on the extent of the tamper, there could be additional charges. Okay.
This is maybe, what do they do when they tamper with it?
There's a range of
Yeah.
outcomes. And that's why it's not quite cut and dry. It could be a severed.
Don't
Line.
explain too much
Yeah.
because you're giving
Yeah,
give ideas.
there's a range of
Are they just trying to disconnect it? Is that what they're trying to, they got the wires or something?
Or take a hammer to it.
accidentally, but there are situations where it is very clear.
So what our goal is and what we want to do, again, to avoid getting to the step of disconnection, is really increasing awareness and participation in our payment plan with Promise Pay, exploring internally here at the Sewage and Water Board other options for helping these customers with assistance and getting back on track. So I know one of my goals this year is to start exploring and thinking about affordability, and if there are avenues for us to go down there and talk about. So the next thing I have is metrics and tracking. So some of this is still in progress. We've actually, Jacobs, as you know, is engaged with our smart meter programming overall. And we have a resource, Lyle, who is a wizard at compiling data and setting up kind of a streamlined tracking systems. And he's working on that almost to completion so that going forward, so from Cogsdale, what we have to pull, we pull multiple lists to compile the data we want to get to the smart meter data. And so what he is building is kind of a one-stop system where we can just plug in the data in the sheets and it'll fill in all of our filters that we want to help us things like prioritizing the shut-offs, understanding where we're at with the numbers, days late, making sure we're staying on track with our outreach to the customers, and payment plans and all of those things would be included. So the last thing I have is just some needs timetable to show you guys some things we're working on. So for staffing, we've been able to hire some data analysts. They've started towards the end of last year. We have one specifically assigned for this smart meter process. So he's going to be able to provide weekly, monthly metrics and tracking. And then he's working with Lyle at Jacobs to get this to completion, I would say, by the end of this month. We're gonna be doing some QA/QC. So one of the things also that we've discovered in customer service is we haven't always made sure that we're tracking our service orders from beginning to completion. So we're gonna have a team that we are now identifying and will get trained through February, and it'll be their job to track not just service orders for smart meter delinquency, but all customer service orders to ensure that we're staying on track. And then the last thing I have is outreach. So we have mailed one round of letters just targeted to smart meter customers that are delinquent, again, to provide them information on Promise Pay, to talk to them about how the smart meters work and the accuracy and the importance of reaching out to us to get on track with those bills, even if they are disputing perhaps any old balances from their mechanical meter. But the other thing we are looking to engage is more public outreach to tell customers and make sure they know that we stand behind the accuracy of the smart meters and the importance to stay on track with payments and engage. So
What, Joe, you go ahead.
I just have a question. I'm curious about this. I know with smart meters, we track leakage. In situations where we have a hard freeze and people allow their faucets to drain, does that put us in a position where we have to send out additional letters? Or do we see that as a leak? Or do we just see it as a circumstance for a hard freeze warning for a period of time?
Whether it's a hard freeze or just a leak, like I've got one in my tub right now that I've got to deal with. If you have a certain amount of usage over, is it 36 hours?
48 hours.
So there is a time frame.
There will, notifications are getting sent out. And are we using the portal for that yet, or are we
Not
still
yet, it's
sending?
hard
we're
letter.
sending letters, hard copy letters to folks. But we can, with a smart meter, we can actually see it now. So instead of
Yeah.
going through
You
multiple
can't see where
ones.
it's going. You can see it's going through the meter.
We see that it's going
You
through
can't
the
tell
meter,
whether it's
but
a
we can't
leak
tell
or
where
intentional or
it's.
anything else.
But we will definitely take into consideration that if we ask people to run their faucets, pencil thin, and we see an unusual spike, then we're gonna connect it to that and not panic and send letters,
Yeah.
mass letters. So,
Okay.
yeah, good question, though.
Pogo, you have anything?
I didn't even say. Did I have my hand up?
There's one thing that I'm concerned about, which is I don't think we're sending out the message strongly enough, and I think we knew to do it, that this is new, a new program. We don't have the arguments anymore over the accuracy of the bills, and we're dead serious. You either pay, come in to negotiate, or we shut off. And I don't think there should be any ambiguity about this. We bend over backwards, but at some point, you've got the issue of some people are paying, some people are not. If there are people that can't afford to pay, that they're the ones that are supposed to come in. If they can, if they're not in that category, they need to prioritize this bill over others. And I don't think that message has gone out to the public, and I think it needs to go out to the public, because it's not fair to people who do pay their bills. And also, I think we need to come up with some way of dealing with multifamily other than it's going to legal. That's not really an answer. You know, maybe this is something that needs to be dealt with directly, that people need to be notified if their landlord isn't paying the bills. And given, saying if this, you know, if he doesn't start paying within X amount of time, we're going to have to shut off the water to this and let them start mobilizing to take care of the problem. We can't just, you know, give these people a pass, because they will. I mean, anybody that doesn't have to pay, you know, there are some people that if they don't have to pay the bill, they won't pay the bill. And it's difficult, it's unpleasant, but I think we need to come up with something other than we're sending it to legal department.
Really, turn the water off.
Yeah, and that needs some kind of notice and procedure for it to deal with tenants, because I understand the tenant isn't the one they're paying, but they have to, you know, they've got to deal with the landlord. It's not that we just don't get our bills paid.
The tenant is paying through rent.
I know the tenant's paying,
Obviously.
but the landlord's cheating the tenant by not passing it on. So,
But I think the most effective way to get the landlord to pay is to have the tenants.
Hmm?
Because we,
yeah, and I mean, I think we need to come up with, there must be ways people deal with this in other places. And I think we need that program.
I guess the question would be too, with your tracking multifamily situations, is that number reflective of a real concern in terms of dollar value to address Janet's question or not?
Yeah, I mean,
Does that make
it's
sense?
significant dollars that, again, because of the multiple parties involved, you're not able to, you know, show the seriousness of having to pay right away. There's too much finger pointing, but having the smart meter in place, having the data, just going directly to them is just a renewed focus and a seriousness of the issue.
I mean, what fingers can they point now at us? I mean, you know, the AMI is measuring what's going into the unit. I mean, I know before there were all kinds of games being played because they say it's the sewage and water board's fault, you know, blah, blah, blah. But we're not in that situation anymore.
Yeah, I'm referring to like property managers versus owners versus tenants who use the water. But
Well, one person has the account, and they're going to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, the one challenge continues to happen is leaking on the private property, and on a multi-unit, you know, a large property, a leak could be very significant, and that really what puts them in a challenging place where they can't afford paying, and they stop paying, and then they don't want to make repairs because it's costly, and it just, so that's not going to go away. I mean, and if you
Yeah, but-
recall, we went to the city council to highlight how critical this issue and how challenging it is, and we were flatly told, don't you dare shut.
We're in a new situation.
Well, I mean, another visit, maybe collective visit, to voice that concern, yes.
what was the number of multifamily, was it 2 million?
It was 5 million.
5 million.
5, yeah, yeah.
So their response was, we were told, don't you dare shut them off.
Don't be a villain and shut people off who have no fault in the situation. It's the landlord. But then,
But we have no
unfortunately,
fault
with
in it, that's for sure.
But it's like
It shouldn't be our
that's an
problem.
unfunded mandate to us, basically.
I mean, we totally agree that it's something that has
But I
to
mean, I think we have to we can't just, I mean, instead of just going to them and saying, you know, we're going to shut them off, come up with a process that explains how we're going to go about this, how we're notifying people, what they can do to help, instead of just this absurd situation. I mean,
You know, notifying, we don't even know who lives there.
I know, but you can pass out flyers, you can do all kinds of
Stick
things.
some stickers on the mailbox that says the water's
You
going
have a
off here in 10
tenant
days.
association, you can contact the tenant association. You know, there are things you can do.
Right.
Anyway,
Is that
Hear you.
driven more by political
yeah.
considerations?
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, then let them, if someone wants to stop it, let them pass the money on to us.
I mean, we were hoping that the city has, you know, bigger clout and more tools to force landlords to pay, but that didn't materialize, unfortunately.
Their
Maybe it's
fault.
worth, yeah, maybe it's worth revisiting and see what options are out there.
We could shut it off if we wanted to, right?
Oh, certainly.
Okay,
Well, that's all I had.
thank you, Suzanne, Ms.
Thank
Curtis.
you.
All right, last item was an action, we're going to have a presentation on the holiday calendar schedule. Admiral Callahan?
Not really a presentation of sorts, but it is.
You can sit down if you want, Dave.
Sure. This year, we are looking at 14 paid holidays here for the Sewage and Water Board. That is the same as last year. The holidays are exactly the same. It's just by way of noting, it's the same as the cities, and it looks to be the same number as the Jefferson Parish, just if you're looking for comparisons. So the only note on the schedule is that we'll try the flex holiday again this year, the flex scheduled holiday. All that really means is New Year's Eve is designated for those who wish to take it as the New Year's Eve holiday, they can. If anybody wants to use it as a flex holiday and with their supervisor or their department's permission to work that day, they can and take that holiday earlier in the year. Marginal use of it in the past, but it's there as a flexibility for our employees, and so that's really the only note on the holiday calendar. Just a quick, one other thing. I know I get asked this every year, but you see the designation of normal holiday or family holiday. Just as a reminder, what that means is, per civil service rule, family holidays are designated as New Year's Day, Mardi Gras, 4th of July, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. Those holidays are, for those who are scheduled to work, they receive 2.5 times pay as compensation. For normal holidays, which are all the other ones, it's a 2.0. So just in case you wondered what that distinction was. So
Probably missed this.
so go ahead. I'm sorry.
But does bereavement time fit into that schedule?
No, not the holiday schedule,
That's how-
but that is part of the civil service rules. So, but it's not part of our schedule, holiday schedule. Yeah. That's basically it. So it's pretty simple schedule.
Titillating.
Yeah. Softball for you all today.
So we can't act on that because we don't have a quorum, so I guess we'll take it to
the board?
directly to the board on
Yeah.
next Wednesday.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so thank you. Are there any public comments?
No public comment.
Okay. Then may I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved. That's right, yeah.
Can I adjourn us? Second, should we vote, Joe?
Yeah, right.
It's $2 million on the multifamily that's outstanding. It's a $5 million total amount, but I don't know what this means. It says total sum of amount due and then total sum of outstanding amount.
So,
But it's 2.3 million.
right, but that's multifamily, but remember, you need to add a large part of that small commercial and even some of the large commercials. So that's why they're saying 4 to 5 million, because of the combination, just how we designate our location classes down at the bottom, that
Yeah,
small
mechanical
commercial, that
meters
2
as
million.
well, those customers.
What?
Yeah, mechanical meter, the old meters as well.
So wait, I'm sorry.
So we're talking. two
61
different-
million is the total amount over 60 days?